This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
That disclaimer is important today. More to come. On today's Roundup, poverty reduction initiatives, parking, the temporary village, and I'm going to give my 2 cents on how a local member of parliament needs to stay in his lane and stop trying to make himself relevant through the media. More on that to come. So away we go. Last night's meeting started on time. Breaking news. The voice almost matched the video, so we can celebrate that. All of the councillors and the mayor were present with the exception of Councillor Gatuga. He joined later. Oh, by the way, on the menu last night, potatoes and gravy, some kind of pork thing, salad, bread and butter tarts for dessert. Sounds delicious. You're welcome, councillors. We start with the announcements, and a big one from the city manager, John Collin. He announced last night that the CMHC housing starts data is in. You might remember this as part of the Building Faster funding that the city receives in order to hit building targets each year. The funding is based on it, and it's this year, 183 new housing starts was the target. Well, as of October 31st, there have been 214 starts. That's 32% over their target, a huge win for the city. The Building Faster grant funding is $1 million, and it's already in next year's budget. Next, the Poverty Reduction Strategy's annual report. It was a great presentation showcasing the successes of the past year. This is a really hardworking team that works every day to find ways to help those in need. They do exceptional work, and their report was fantastic. One of their biggest successes was that the team found shelter for everyone in an encampment last winter. By utilizing local motels, no one was left in the cold. It's a big deal, and their work is important. It's too bad council doesn't fall in line with their work. More on that to come. Next, the quarterly update of finances from the treasurer. Another celebration in Chambers. $1.6 million left over. That's $1.6 million in our pocket that we somehow made. 0.7% of the tax levy. $1 million of that comes from revenue from solid waste. The money goes directly into the stabilization reserve, so that's good news. Local improvement to Macdonell Street was brought to council last night. That includes new sewers, sidewalks, and boulevards. Property owners are responsible for the upgrades of their frontage, and they're okay with it, which they can pay up front or place them on their taxes. Next, changes to the capital budget was presented. Well, this was an interesting one because I didn't expect it. There are mostly updates to the structure of the report and some further details on some of the items, nothing big. But then the deliberations began, and this is the part that I was surprised about. It was 93 pages. The capital budget deliberations, questions from the councillors went round and round. There's too much to cover here, and the new layout of the budget is much, much easier to read and follow. Gone are the old days of them bickering about everything line by line by line. I'll add a link to today's video on our website for you to check it out. You can see where the new pedestrian crosswalks are going, including the one smack dab in the middle of Arthur Street, the busiest part of it to boot. How much a sidewalk plow costs. There's all kinds of things in there. And a lot of it makes good sense as far as capital investments can go. Now, one of the highlights of the discussion, though, had to be Councillor Greg Johnson, who asked about the city's new water truck. Yeah, that's in the budget. We're getting a new water truck. It's used for watering flowers, etc. But the councillor had a different line of questioning about the truck. He asked, where do we get the water from for the water truck? I have to have a drink. You know where I got my water from? The tap.
The tap?
Yeah.
Where?
The capital budget will be posted to our page a little bit later on.
What?
It is worth. Where do you get the water from? A tap. Ultimately, the lake.
Yeah.
The temporary villages in the capital budget, $5 million that Councillor Gatuga had an issue with because it was taken from reserves. The decision is ratified and final, but the questions surrounded the reserve funds go round and round, and he says they're against internal policy of council for the use of funds. They're supposed to be highly leveraged, which means supported by government funding, but there isn't any leverage currently, so it shouldn't be coming out of that fund. That led to 15 minutes of back and forth bickering with the normal interruptions and talking over people that the councillor is known for. The budget decision was done at 10:05, all 93 pages of it. It's going to be ratified on December the 9th. There was no way that I was going to be able to break down everything that they talked about. We would run out of time, so we'll do our best to post this on our website, and then you can look through it and see the projects that are coming in your area. Next, the big topic. The temporary village site location. On October 21st, the options for the village were presented to council. Last night, the report came back with the recommended location being Miles Street. 700 people participated in surveys that were available online. After an enormous amount of work by administration, they've come back with 114 Miles Street at a cost of $4 to $4.3 million. And then the debate began. The mayor spoke first and points out that that's not a municipal responsibility. But he also is still pointing out the debate about even having the project altogether. The project has been ratified, sir. They've already approved the plan, just not the location. And tonight was supposed to be about the location, as pointed out by the committee chair, Mark Bentz. The mayor is changing his mind again. He voted for the village, but spoke only about the concept and how he now doesn't agree with it. We can see where this is going a mile away. Gertuga was next. He started by citing Marcus Pulowski and his unscientific polling of the area, suggesting no one was approached for an opinion, which, as we know, is simply not true. There were ample opportunities to comment on the project. More on our irrelevant MP in a moment. Councillor Aiello was next, suggesting that the Cam River option was not even a real option. Even though it's currently a location of an encampment, he kept questioning administration as if to say that they had some kind of evil plan for Miles Street from the beginning and that Cam River shouldn't have been an option. Well, they didn't have an evil plan. Miles Street is the cheaper option. Councillor Trini was next. On the survey, she questioned the validity of the survey and why the survey was open to the whole city and how that can skew the numbers. Councillor, is this not a citywide issue and problem? Yeah, everyone has an opinion on it. So then she went down yesterday to do her own polling and talk to businesses. Well, in her opinion, the businesses want the village at Cam River. That should mean something, right? No, it's polling after the fact. Then the 11 p.m. resolution came. It was carried and we continued. It's only 11. More to come. Councillor Mark Bentz won't support the site. He wants more options. He says that the entire presentation was more of a sales pitch, and he doesn't want a sales pitch. Back and forth they went. Then came the 12 a.m. resolution. It was passed, and we continued, and this is where it went off the rails. Councillor Bentz let them go on and on about everything but the motion on the floor, which was the site location. And this is where it became obvious that the outcome was clear. Councillor Bentz, who I'm a big fan of, especially as a finance committee chair, completely dropped the ball as the chair of this committee last night. For 2 hours, he let councillors re-debate and the carried motion to build a temporary village. That's right, they already approved it. They didn't focus on what was in front of them, which is the location recommendation. One of them, he let go on and on about everything but the location. Councillor Bentz is against it. And the fact that he let one councillor after another go on about the original carried resolution was, to me, bad form. Optics are everything. That, unfortunately, looked bad on him. But he did have an agenda as the chair, and his plan worked. The question on the recommended location by administration was called at 12:15. The result? 5 councillors in favor. Councillors Chung, Folds, Atrini, Oliver, and Johnson. 8 were against. One of them being the mayor. So just so you know, a non-vote, not putting your hand up, is a no, in the negative. The mayor didn't vote twice. And I checked this because I was able to rewind it and check again. He didn't vote, so therefore his vote is a no. But why didn't he put his hand up? There has to be a reason, but in my opinion, didn't look good. There were obviously a point that he was trying to make, but I couldn't pick it up. The motion for the location choice is lost. So, October 21st, the idea carried. Unanimously, the temporary village motion had only 3 opposed, Aiello, Bentz, and Agarwal. But last night, 5 people changed their mind, even though they fully supported the original concept unanimously. Now an issue with new options and how to proceed. The city manager, obviously confused by it all, asks for a 5-minute recess. There had to be a debate about why there was a recess first, but they took one. They take every opportunity to make themselves look foolish. They're completely out of touch. You vote for a plan, accept a plan to do good, and then throw it away, only to send administration back to scramble to figure out something else and come up with new options. Even though they've had weeks to do that, they decided to do it last night. Even though they accepted the proposal for the temporary village a month ago, last night they threw it away. At 12:50, The bickering and arguing continued, constantly interrupted by Councillor Gatuga, who apparently is the smartest person in the room and knows all of the rules for running a meeting. He would not stop. At 12:57, the meeting was adjourned. But that's not all, because there's more to come. The city council meeting still had to start. In that meeting, a notice of motion on parking, that came forward at 1:05. The parking decision was ratified, as you know, long time ago. But here we are again. Councillor Hamilton did his homework, and there'll be changes to the parking times and restrictions. Yes, those are coming. Enough complaining was done, and it worked. It requires a 2/3 vote, and that comes back to council on December 9th. The meeting finally adjourned at 1:06 a.m. It was a late night. Now for some commentary, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First, I've said this countless times before. And last week in our special edition of the Roundup with City Manager John Cullen, we disagreed on one very important fact. Unlike the city manager, it's my opinion that this is the most dysfunctional, indecisive council I've ever watched, and I've seen a few. Here we are again. And I've lost count as to how many times we've been here before, but there's a group again changing their mind on major items, debating it to death just to justify their lack of understanding and engagement, and simply put, to make themselves look foolish again. They voted for the concept of the temporary village. They voted for unanimously the idea that something needed to be done. 3 councillors were against the village. Last night, 8 were. A complete flip-flop. Why? Because they don't understand their own decisions. There is obviously bullying going on in the back rooms of council to switch votes that dramatically. And what's worse, the mayor, the leader in the chambers, decided not to vote. It simply makes no sense. They've made countless decisions. The temperature goes up and they change their mind. You have to ask yourself, is this group in the job to do the right thing or to look good? They almost did the right thing a month ago by finding a solution for those in need. After a colossal and outstanding piece of work by a handful of administrators to come up with a plan, do the research, and find a location, council changes their mind and puts them back on a wild goose chase. You almost look like you were doing something right, council. Now you look foolish again because you can't stand the heat. The exact same thing is happening on December 9th, where parking comes back. After a year of debates and it being carried, they're going to change their mind again. Backtracking again, flip-flopping again. It's shameful. But you know what? We picked them. By far the most dysfunctional and embarrassing group we've had in a long time. And finally, my 2 cents on one more thing that came up last night that I'm, to be honest, sick of hearing about. That, of course, made it to local news because it must have been a slow news day, and then social media needed it to be stirred up, and here we are. And it, of course, is pertaining to the temporary village. How about that Marcus Pulowski? A member of parliament who is about as useless as he is relevant. Name one thing in your mind right now that he's actually accomplished or been a part of. He's just collecting a salary. We never hear about him any other time. He never speaks up, and when he does, it's only to make himself known. Now, I'm not being harsh. He went against his own government during the pandemic. Backwards thinking that stirred things up when he was against restrictions then. Now he decides that he needs to stick his nose in city business. All the while, his own government is working on a plan for those in need. It doesn't matter what your political stripes are. It has nothing to do with that. But he represents Thunder Bay, Rainy River, and this stunt this week has essentially guaranteed that he'll be out of a job in the next election. He played into the game. Why is it in my riding? Why can't it be in the north end of town? What a disgrace. Mr. Pulowski, city decisions are simply not your business. Not only are you not paying attention to the needs of your community by attempting to make yourself relevant by knocking on doors to ask people's opinions on something you have no say on, no control over, and frankly zero knowledge of, made you look foolish. Stay in your lane. Do something with your government. Be the voice in your government. Get your nose out of city politics where you don't belong and most definitely will not be voted into again when you lose your seat in the next federal election. The worst part? A bunch of councillors, 2 in particular, took the MP's bait, his unscientific, poorly timed, and irrelevant door knocking. They drank his Kool-Aid, and he had no business commenting on it, no business even starting the conversation, but he did, and once again proved his relevance, which is zero. Council changed its mind again. they will change their mind again on December 9th. They had a chance to do good, and they didn't. And that's the roundup for today.
Just need a coffee here.
Well,
how about some water?
Sorry, it was 1:06.
That was,
it was
my
a
gosh.
little late.
Wow, that was intense. All right, so that means this temporary village
John,
will not happen in the
start
spring.
over. I can't tell you how sickened I am by that group that did so much work on this. Hours and hours and hours of research and figuring this out to do something good. They presented beautifully again last night, only for that work to be thrown away. And I don't understand why we let that happen. I don't understand why we have these qualified, quality people doing exceptional work just to get thrown in the garbage. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense to me.
And has there been any chatter of other ideas and locations?
Well, this is the point. This was one of the points last night. They've done all of the work. They came up with 2 locations. They brought those 2 locations to council because they did the work trying to figure out other locations that fit, not only in the scope and the size, but in the financial implications of it. They did the work.
Yeah.
The list was narrowed down to 2. And now this group of geniuses is sending them back to go up and find another list. They've already done the work, and you've turned your back on them and flip-flopped again. It makes no sense.
Do you anticipate any discussion before the end of the year on this, or
Who
probably
knows?
not to the end? Okay.
This is a colossal amount of work, and God bless administration for trying their best to convince these people that this is the right recommendation. It's the right thing to do. But I still can't get over 5 of them changing their mind last night.
Well, John, a lot of work in that roundup, and thanks for sharing your thoughts. And as always, remember, you can find this on our website, 999thebay.ca, in just a bit. And you can also text the word council to our T-Bay Tel Talkin' text line, 807-344-8229. A direct link to this morning's roundup will be there. John, thanks for your time this morning.
I'm probably going to leave early. I need a little nap today, if that's okay.
How about some ABBA? Would that do?
That'll help. Thanks.
All right, let's do it.